Good evening and a warm welcome to all the customers, members of Landmark, members of the media, and all the avid readers who have joined us with your valuable time this evening. Thank you very much for being part of the book launch this evening, Once Upon a Star. But as you take a look at the Star book, I'm going to request you to kindly draw all your attention to the table where we've got our own superstars. Please put your hands together and receive the author to the title in Gajra Kotari and our very special film personality who needs no introduction in Mr. Anupam Kher. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I'm first going to take the opportunity for the benefit of those of you who would like to know a little bit more about the works of Gajra Kotari. Gajra is a multimedia writer. Her first collection, Women-Centric Short Stories, Fragile Victories, was published in 1996. It was followed by another collection, The Last Laugh, in 2003. Collins, the publishers in India, in 2011, to critical acclaim simultaneously with its Hindi translation, Bikhre Sur. Gajra has written television series like Hamare Tumhare and many more, even the nation's most popular daily soap, Balika Vadhu, and something very recent, Buddha and Veera. Recipient of many awards, too many to mention right now. She was also with the script associate for Mahesh by Tanuja Chandra. This is her second novel, and all the very best for Once Upon a Star. And for those of you who definitely are eagerly looking forward what you're going to find in the book, I'd like to lead you on with just a few glimpses. Yes, from the book Once Upon a Star, there is much unrest in the Vardhan home to one of the most important film families. Raj, the superstar, has decided to leave his wife Simran for the reigning queen of Bollywood, Sia. Simran, former actress, now out of shape, down in the dumps. Her in-laws dote on her but can't seem to dissuade their son. Besides, their only daughter, Ashima, has walked out of an unhappy marriage and returned home to announce she wants to be an actor. They have their hands full, and in the midst of all this, Raj and Simran's children, they suffer the news of their father's alleged affairs, timeless and relentlessly. How is Simran ever going to seek out happiness and perhaps love as well in this dark maze of rejection? A saga of love and betrayal and the quest for one's true identity. Gajra Kotari's new novel gives an insider's view of the world of cinema and the many faces of the industry where fame is fleeting and everything is as real as it is dramatic. I'm going to pause here and leave you to catch on with the story exclusively and lively, but for the moment, may I invite our guests at the table to get their hands on the cover. Let's unwrap and unveil Once Upon a Star by Gajra Kotari. So here's looking forward to Once Upon a Star with Mr. Anupam Kher doing the honors along with the author. All the very best. Congratulations, Gajra. And here it comes to you, authored by HarperCollins. Certainly a very promising Bollywood family saga from one of India's most well-known writer of TV serials. Here you're going to find it as a second novel in print from HarperCollins. All the very best to Once Upon a Star. Members of the media will request you to kindly stay stationed at your places. I'm going to firstly hand it over to the author, Gajra, to share a few words this evening.
A very good evening to all my respected seniors, friends and members of the media. A very big thanks for making it in the midst of Mumbai traffic on a working weekday evening. I know how tough that is. Once Upon a Star was not supposed to be my second novel. I had a novel written and sent to the publishers in the editing stage 2 years ago. Over a casual lunch where we were supposed to discuss the first few edited pages, Meenakshi is smiling already. Meenakshi, my editor, who became great friends with me at the time of my first novel, she and I were having a lazy lunch and discussing what were the stories that fascinated us. Hopefully should be my third novel. She said, put that aside and let's work on this one because this one is really something very nice. I reacted to it in a very mixed manner and I said, okay, I'll think about it. And after she left, I spent some time really wondering whether there was something to what she was pushing me to do. I realized then that like a lot of well-educated, somewhat well-educated people, I was somehow being a bit of a hypocrite in questioning myself as to whether I'd like to set a story in the so-called ephemeral world of films, which like so many of us educated Indians, we keep perceiving Bollywood as being flippant, frivolous, something which doesn't have much substance sometimes, only glamour, no substance. So with these thoughts, I questioned myself, and then I realized that it was what I would want to make it. It's not how it is perceived. And I didn't want to be a hypocrite anymore. I was curious about how Bollywood stars lived and thought. What were the masks they wore? How were they at home as husbands, fathers, wives, daughters-in-law for that matter? So in this unmasking, I slowly discovered the story layer by layer of Once Upon a Star. And into it, as I went along, delightfully, I was able to also weave in one of my favorite thoughts. Way back in college when I was wanting to get into journalism, I wrote an article on how women in entire South Asia, whether it was India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, all of them actually came unto their own. They became women of substances only after the loss or breakup with their husbands, or in some cases with the fathers. In other words, can a woman only discover her truth, strength and identity in the absence of the man of her life? This was one of the favorite topics which I wanted to research. I had begun to do it, but I left it somewhere in between. But as I wrote Once Upon a Star, I think it sort of just wove itself into the story. The fact that in a place like Bollywood, as we call it, where the glare of media is merciless, where every twist and turn is commented upon, is documented, and it's for public consumption. In a place like that, if there is rejection which a woman faces, if there is a kind of humiliation that she faces, how does she put her life together and stand up again? Is it even possible? So these were the various thoughts behind Once Upon a Star. And I think what I owe to Anupam is the fact that he's virtually the only film person whom I know. And when I thought of film people and whether they were frivolous, whether they had depth, it was he who came to my mind and made me realize that, you know, having depth as a human being, you could be unintellectual, you could be not so evolved, you could not be speaking clipped English for that matter, but film people do have a lot of depth if I go by what I learnt being with him and knowing him as a family friend for 15 years. So I enjoyed writing Once Upon a Star. I, however, in all humility, hope that the readers enjoy reading it also. And a big thanks to a lot of people. I know it's sometimes very boring to hear, but I have to do it now. I don't want to leave it for the end. Apart from my editors Meenakshi and Vinita Ramchandani, I think family first, which is going to embarrass my husband, but he's been a knight in shining armor and an ever-ready battery rolled into one when it has come to this book. He's been very supportive. Family has been very supportive. Anupam has always been the first reader of whatever I have written, and his encouragement has really made a difference to my entire approach to what I have written, especially when it comes to books. So I'm very thankful to him. I'm thankful to my Colors Parivar, which has gone all out to promote this book, my colleagues Purnendu, Rahul, Deep, and so many others. And last but not the least, to all the people who put a beautiful trailer together for my book, right from director Rakesh Bakshi to my three actors, Advait Kotari, Meenakshi Jain, and Raksha Shetty. All of them have contributed very lovingly and affectionately to this product, which brings out what the story of Once Upon a Star is all about. Thank you so much. I hope we have a great evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rao. All the very best to your effort and the release of the book. I am now, without much ado, going to hand it over to Mr. Kher to lead us in conversation. Thank you very much, Mr. Kher, for joining us this evening.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm here as Gajra has already mentioned that I know them for the last 15 years. My faith in Gajra as a person comes first, then her as a writer. So if I trust or have a faith in a person, automatically I perceive the book or anything that they do from that point of view. And for that reason, I'm very happy to have known you and your husband, who's your knight. What? Shining
armor.
Oh my God. Sailesh, that's
He's
fantastic.
already,
Yeah,
and he's going to fight with me.
And there is Mr. Firoz Khan. Namaste, sir. So, Firoz sahab, आप आगे बैठिए ना, ऐसी क्या बात है? So basically, when I read the book, for me it's a story. It's a story which I don't read as a biographical thing or as anything else. For me, it's a wonderful story of the liberation of a lady, of a woman. It's a book about courage. It's a book about coming to terms with life. It's a book about lots of things, and in that respect, I think it's an interesting book to read and to publish, and to also launch the book today. There are so many questions which I have had no time to ask Gajra, but today I can ask related to this book. Suppose you had said to Meenakshi that no, I want to continue with my second book as second book and not make the third book as my second book. And suppose they had said no, then we will not publish your second book. Is there a publisher's pressure that came onto you?
Not at all. No, it was a very creative pressure, but there was no publisher's pressure at all. They would have published my other book. They're too nice. They're not like industry people.
Which industry people are you talking about?
We don't have swords over our head when it comes to publishing. That's what I love about it.
I'm sure a lot of writers will not agree with you but I think there are nice people in all industries.
Sure.
And there are not so nice people in all industries. I think we cannot sort of club people in industries.
Sure.
So did you write this book because you thought this had more mass appeal? Because you're writing about film stars and their lives, and we will have more people to read this, because there are so many authors in this city who have made their name by writing about film stars and all those kinds of things that the film stars indulge in. Do you think this was an easy way to become more popular?
Well, the temptation to make...
Sorry, my questions are not going to be very easy questions. This is what I want to know.
Okay. The temptation to write in a more popular setting was definitely top of my mind. Because my first novel was set in a very, very niche setting. It was a classical musician's house in the 70s. So you couldn't get more niche than that. I wanted a more popular setting, but certainly it wasn't films to start with. However, as I went along, I felt that this was something very new for me and I would get to tell the story my way. So, I don't see any harm in choosing a popular setting. That's what we do all the time. I think script writing teaches you to respect what viewers and what readers want, and yet try to give them something which is of substance. So in that sense, yes, I was very happy when I was convinced that I could tell a good story in a popular setting.
So how much of this book is based on your imagination and how much of this is based on some reality?
It's definitely full of characters who resemble real characters, because I don't see anything wrong in doing that. I mean, it's akin to even when a plane flies thousands of miles above into the sky, like a flight of imagination. You still need that runway, you still need that base where you will taxi before you take off. So I couldn't have written in a vacuum. I did collate and collect all the stories that I had grown up reading and hearing about, and tried to give it my interpretation. And as I have said, I'm really very keen that when people read it, they can enjoy the guessing game a little bit, but I'm very sure that there is no track or no character story which from start to finish resembles any character. So I've been very conscious of that while writing.
So who is your favorite character in the film, in the book?
My favorite character has to be Simran.
Why?
As I said, because it's so difficult to pick yourself up after being rejected. It's easier said than done. I think there are millions of self-help books which teach you how to cope, because that's the most difficult part for any human being, to pick your pieces up again and stand. And when you have to pick up your pieces in front of the media glare, which can be very harsh, I think that's a huge challenge. So Simran is my hero.
So why does it happen that a woman identifies with the wife but she does not identify with the other woman?
Very difficult question. This is the most difficult question. I think I do identify with Sia also in this book. I had to in my 15 years of writing stories for all sorts of medium, I had to learn not to be very judgmental, because if I can't put myself in the shoes of another person and I keep judging whether that person is right or wrong, then I'll never write a good story. So when it was needed, I tried to feel like Sia too. Maybe that's come through well, maybe Simran has come through a little better, but I'm every woman, I have to be.
Yeah, but your sympathies are with Simran more than they are with Sia.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
So, will you be ever able to write, maybe there is not that in your life there is something like that happen, but because one is a married woman, it reminds me of a movie called Arth,
Right.
Mahesh Bhatt's Arth. So, will you be ever writing a novel if your publisher asked to write it from another woman's point of view and make her the heroine of your novel?
I'd love to. Throw me the challenge. I'd love to, because I'd be able to do all the things which I haven't been able to do so far. I'll do it vicariously.
So the other woman has to be beautiful, other woman can't be ugly, she can't be older than the wife. Suppose she's not sexually threatening to the wife, is that alright then?
For whom?
For the wife?
No, it's not. In fact, I remember reading a survey that for a man, if his wife is sexually unfaithful, it's a bigger hit, it's a bigger hurt. And while for a woman, if the man is emotionally involved with the woman, it's a bigger hit than if he has a one-night stand with her. And I completely understand that.
You understand one night stands? Okay.
Of course I understand that.
That's nice to hear that. That's very refreshing to hear that. So,
Do I have the chance to ask you a few uncomfortable questions?
I'm not the author. So, how much time did you take to write this book?
A year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had the plot already with you?
I had half the plot with me.
Which half of it?
The half about the breakup and what the woman goes through, But the latter half of what she does was not with me. So that's what I needed to work on.
Okay, so at this point, let's have a look at the audiovisual that we have made, that they have made about this. May we have the lights? Can we shut the lights, please?
Paging for the maintenance to kindly dim the lights.
Firoza. First of all, I must acknowledge the presence of my friends Firoz Abbas Khan and Amit Khanna. They are more than friends, play a very important role in our lives, and some more people are there. So Gajra, since you have made an audio visual, do you see this as a film?
Yes, I'd love this to be a film. If someone from the film industry is gutsy enough to not think that this is a sensational piece of work but deserves to be told as a story.
What is your ideal cast? If you were to give a choice that, okay, these are the people you want for the 3 different roles. Have you given a thought to it?
I keep imagining Vidya Balan as my Simran, but I haven't been able to give enough importance to Raj and Sia.
That's not fair. You're making it very obvious that the story is only of Simran. So who do you think will be Raj?
I'd love Farhan Akhtar to be Raj.
And Sia can be anybody.
Anybody.
Any particular director you think you would want him to tackle the film?
I would love someone like Firoz Abbas Khan to direct the film, because I think the way he handles relationships, whatever I've seen of his plays, is mind blowing.
Wonderful.
So I'd love it if he could direct this film.
Were you? Did you give your first draft to read? Was it Sailesh or any of your children? What was his first comment on your first draft?
Once again, you're writing about women. Why don't you write something else?
Why did you write about him? You mean to say?
That was his first comment. But seriously, he believed in the story a lot, and he didn't understand a few points, a few takes of certain characters at times. But I think by now he's given up on my argumentative capacities, so he just lets it be.
Also, Balika Badhu is about the liberation of a child girl turning into something.
Yes. Somehow it veers towards my take on stories veers towards women finding strength, and I'm really quite unapologetic about it, because one thing is that in all the stories that I work on, the women's relationships are very important. I've never advocated something like a woman being successful without being happy, without having a complete set of relationships which also define her just as they define a man.
Okay, I got it. Would you like to read out some passage?
I would like to ask you one question.
Okay.
While writing this book, I think what kept hitting me again and again was how much more complex an actor's personal life becomes, his relationships become, because of the media glare. Does it affect your personal relationships in a detrimental way, or perhaps even in a positive way? You have been an actor for decades, but you're very grounded, you're very real. You make an effort to be in touch with real people. It's across the board, that is what people feel about you. But has this ever affected your life? And if so, how have you dealt with it?
It does affect your life. It does make you feel sad, angry, betrayed. But then I will rather feel sad, angry and betrayed and not be a film actor than be a film actor.
Okay.
You see, so it's okay, it's part of profession. You deal with it. It's not only, in today's time, it's not only with film people, it's with sports people, politicians, intellectuals, because media thrives on negativity, because that negativity is news, positivity is no news. So over a period of time, you get used to it, you never stop feeling hurt.
Okay.
never stop getting angry, never stop being betrayed, but you learn to deal with it in a little more maturer manner. But every time something is written, every time something is published about you or spoken about you, and if it is not the truth, it does hurt you, it does affect you.
But do you ever feel like retaliating and using the same media to,
There's
in
so
a
much
sense-
other important things to do than to retaliate.
Great.
There is so much to do in life, there is so much creative to do in life, there is so much happening in your life. Also at the end of it, after a few years you discover there are 4 or 5 people around you, whether they are your family or that your friends, whose opinions matter.
Right.
And news is just 24 hours, not even 24, 12 hours a day, which is important. I don't remember what was yesterday's news. We have about more than
Thank you.
20, we have about more than 20 channels, news channels which are very popular or known. Every 20 minutes there is a breaking news on all the channels.
Right.
And every breaking news is about something which has gone wrong. But you don't remember it. So I think public memory is very short. I have my own Twitter handle where I keep clarifying and keep saying but my own things. So thank God for social media, you can use it for constructive things also.